Hi there, and welcome to this episode of Voices of Fostering, where today I'm joined by one of our lovely foster carers, Julie. Hello, Julie.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. So, Julie, I understand you've been fostering now for nearly 9 years. So, tell us a little bit about what led you to fostering. How did you get started?
So, as a family, we had heard that there was a need for foster carers. And me and my husband and our children were all very open to exploring fostering and what it would involve. Because we had sort of what we thought was a lovely family and our children had lovely experiences in life, we thought we had enough sort of room in all our hearts and also a spare room to be able to offer this to children that, needed sort of care and support. But for us, we waited until our children were old enough to be able to have a say in whether this was something that they would be happy for us as a family to do as well. And they were. So that's when we started to explore fostering and what it would involve.
Yes, that was a real decision for the whole family then, wasn't it? And how did that look at the beginning then? Can you remember that first inquiry? Did you hit the ground running or did it take a little bit of time?
Yeah, I think initially, I think we rang. I can't remember exactly because it was so many years ago, but I think we rang maybe a local authority just to inquire. Um, and then I don't think at that moment in time we actually took it any further. And I think we waited, if I remember correctly, a few years until our children were a bit older because our children were sort of 11, about 13 when we started to properly investigate or explore what fostering would mean as a family. And so I think we put out the initial sort of inquiry and can't remember if it was online or by
Yeah.
phone. And then we did the initial little training course where you go to sort of find out a bit more about fostering before you decide if you do actually want to take that step into doing, the Form F and starting the
Yeah.
official procedure.
Yeah, because I think it's important for people to realise that, isn't it, Julie? Like, if you do inquire, it doesn't mean that you're going to be a foster carer the next day. Like, it's very much you can dip your toe, find out
Yeah.
information. It can be a long process, can't it?
Yeah. And I think the main thing is knowing that just by inquiring, you're under no obligation. If you feel that it's something that isn't right for you, you'll never, there's never any pressure
Yeah.
to continue that journey. So for us, it's something that we explored. And I think the main thing for us was our children were on board.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to make a decision that our children would be happy with.
Yeah.
So I think we were all very much of the same sort of opinion and
Yeah.
same, we're all very much for it. Yeah.
So when you did get to that point where you were ready to go and you were heading into the assessment, what was that whole process like?
So we had, it's a very thorough procedure. Basically, it sort of goes back to your childhood. So it's a very, and also one of the things that you sort of think is sometimes it's quite hard to remember everything.
Yeah.
Like career wise, because it's like sort of every job that you've ever had. And so you definitely need your CV.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it wasn't daunting because we had a social worker who was very sort of always very approachable and calm. So for us, we just basically, it was like having regular meetings, really. But it's a very thorough, but I would say it wasn't daunting.
Yeah. And then what happened at the end of your assessment then? Did you have a child or young person come to stay with you straight away, or was there a little bit of time?
Yeah. So we, when we were approved as a family, we had a child come to us. It was within about a week, actually.
Wow.
It was very quick. And she was with us for about 11 weeks. And without going into any sort of details, she then moved on to another carer. But what I would say is one of the most important things that I've learned is that you are we've had children with us for very long term, some are short term, but always see it as a positive and that you've always tried to help. So no matter how long you've had a child with you, you've always brought something positive. And I always remember a support group, they said sometimes you're part of a relay race and you'll do your little bit
Yeah.
and then someone else might take over.
Yeah.
But I would say that the more years that it's like anything, the more years that you have done training and things like that, the more confident and experience that you'll get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like that analogy, Julie. You're passing the baton on, and whilst you've got that baton, you try your best, don't you?
Yeah, because I always remember, because you mustn't feel it's quite easy as a human being to sometimes feel that you've failed, but actually if you don't look at it as failure, because at the support groups, you could actually see that you've done your part of that relay and you've passed on. So I think it's always trying to not be so hard on yourself if things don't go quite as you planned.
Yeah.
Um,
And you've
situation.
mentioned their support groups and training. So tell us about that. What sort of support and training do you access?
So I quite enjoy the training. I do a lot of online training because I find that is so much easier to fit into your everyday lifestyle. If we had local face-to-face, then yes, we would use local face-to-face. So I find that sometimes it's like I've been on de-escalation training, therapeutic training. I find that it's a good refresher. And also when you're doing online classroom interactive training, you get to liaise with other foster carers. And it's really good to sometimes be able to communicate with people that are doing the same kind of thing as you, because they know how it truly feels.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find that your peers are really important, connecting with other foster carers?
We do, but unfortunately where we are, we are trying to encourage more support groups. But I've sort of got one friend who we have our own sort of WhatsApp catch up.
Yeah.
We formed our own support group. But also support is like, my husband is now a full-time foster carer, so we're both full-time. Initially for many years he worked full-time, but we both now are full-time together. Very important. I mean, for us, we very much support each other. And then you can have your support group can be like your friend, confidential friends. There's obviously you can't disclose sort of certain information, but I find that just having like the support of my parents mentally, not with care, but just looking after yourself, really. It doesn't have to be always to discuss the fostering, but just good well-being, going for a dog walk with somebody, it's looking after yourself is very positive. It's very positive for yourself to look after you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And what does your fostering family look like at the moment then? How many children or young people do you have living with you?
So we, since 2019, we had a sibling group, which we still have two children of 3. And our birth children still live at home. So our daughter is in her 20s and our son is in his 20s. So we've always had our 2 birth children at home. And then sibling group of 3. But the eldest has now left and gone to university. But it's still sort of in touch a little bit, but it's sort of really gained their independence. The older one of the 3 sibling groups, sort of independent now and gone on to university. But we still got the 2 younger ones who aren't so young now. One's just done her GCSEs and the other youngest is at secondary school. But I would say very settled, very family-like. The bonus of having permanency is that you can really feel like a proper family, and it gives security for the children because they know that they're with you and they're secure.
Yeah. So tell us about permanency then, Julie. What does that mean for somebody who maybe doesn't understand or hasn't heard that before?
Well, from what I understand is you have long-term fostering, which is very similar to permanency, really. I wouldn't like to say, I couldn't tell you the exact differences, but permanency is basically similar to long-term fostering.
Yeah.
So the children know that they can stay with you, unless obviously that they can stay with you till they're sort of adult.
Yeah. And also as well, it'd be interesting to get an understanding of your children who you now say are adults. What happens as they enter adulthood? Can they become like a support carer for you? Are they able
Yeah.
to look after the children as well?
Yes. So, I mean, not that me and my husband don't really go away a lot on our own, but our birth children, once they're 18, they'll have a DBS. And our older children are backup carers. So, we did once manage to go away, me and my husband, and our birth children, because they're adults.
Yeah.
They had to have sort of, my social worker sort of rang them and had to go for a few sort of procedures. But they were they're now our backup carers, which is so much better because it means that our children have never had to go to respite. Not that there's anything wrong with children going to respite, because some children do like going to respite to other carers. But for our children, they like to just stay in their own home, normal routine. So that's what works for us. But we are fortunate that we have they weren't adults, but they are now adult birth children.
Yeah. So you've had that sibling group of 3 with you since 2019. You said, of course, one of them is now older and has gone to university. So that's 7 years, that they've been with you and you've been in their lives. What sort of progress have you seen? What sort of journey have you seen them go on since they first came to live with you?
Oh, just they really, really, as someone said to me, they're like a little flower and they've bloomed. Like the youngest, or I will give names because of data confidentiality, but the youngest doing very well at school, very involved in clubs, wants to, goes to youth club, goes to scouts, goes to club, helps at clubs, very much enjoying life, wants to get involved. And middle one, child just has done GCSEs. All the children always attended school, very well mannered, very well behaved, and yeah, very proud of them all. But yeah, I think it's helped because they have been with us so many years, and I think it's quite nice that they've been settled and they've all been together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think this is something that you'll do for a long time in the future? Can you see yourself doing it forever, really?
Well, eventually me and my husband may want a little bit more freedom. So we're definitely, obviously, our children that are with us now may want to stay in, but it obviously will be their choice. So that would take us for quite a few years to come if they decided to take that option. So we're definitely committed to the children in our care.
Yeah.
And then I think in some sense, it does keep you young. Because, it's like, for instance, we were at the cinema watching the He-Man film on Sunday. Me and Wes was the youngest. So it does actually keep you sort of young, in a sense that you're still doing the things that you would have done when your own birth children were younger.
Yeah.
But it's something we would consider in years to come. But we're all definitely committed for the next quite a few years anyway.
Yeah. And what is it that keeps you motivated and committed, Julie? What is it that keeps you going?
Well, because you form a relationship with the children that are in your care, and you just want to stand by them, really. they do become very much part of your family. And yeah, and it just works. I mean, obviously, there's going to be like, sometimes it's a little bit harder than others, but
Yeah.
that's life, normal family life. But on the whole, it's generally, it's very sort of everyone very happy-go-lucky.
And if
You know,
anyone listening or watching was, you 9 years ago, 10 years ago, and was thinking about fostering, how would you encourage them to make that inquiry and to sort of dip their toe?
well, I just say really send that email online or make that phone call, because you've got nothing to lose. Because as long as you don't pressure yourself that you have to do it, just see that you're just inquiring and just go with the flow of the inquiry. And there's a whole team to support you as a foster carer. You're not on your own. There is support, from your supervising social worker, and the agency. And I would just say explore it. You've got nothing to lose by just exploring,
Yeah.
dipping your toe.
And as
Yeah.
you say, you're going to have that support every step of the way, aren't you? Well, it's been lovely to chat to you, Julie. Thank you so much for your time today, and best of luck with the future.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Voices of Fostering. If you'd like to find out more, head online and search National Fostering Group and make this the year you foster.